Good morning, one and all. So, here we are with the second unit. We are going to begin the second unit of biology, and I think this is the fourth session of our class. So, in this unit, we are going to start plant physiology, which is not a new chapter for you, something and all you have an idea because you have studied in your lower classes. So, this plant physiology, what is this plant physiology? So, it's a branch of biology which deals with the life functions of the plant. You understand what is life function? Means what all are going on in the plants so that the plant is remaining active. So, this plant physiology, if anyone asks you the definition, you can say it's a branch of biology which deals with the life functions of the plant. Like it includes the functioning of cells, tissues, organs, organ systems, and the organism as a whole. So, this absorption of root, this particular chapter, which is called absorption by root, deals with some of the fundamental process which is taking place in the plants, like osmosis, which is completely a new term for you all. And this osmosis have a tremendous significance in the life of all organisms. So by the way we go on to the through this lesson, we'll be able to know what is this absorption by roots. So let me have some introduction about this chapter. See, as we all know that plants require large amounts of water and mineral for their growth, nutrition and other vital activities. And you are all aware that roots of a plant absorb water, because we have already studied the functions of root in the junior classes. So, as we know that roots of a plant absorb water and minerals from the soil, and they conduct means they transport them to every part of the plant, that is through the stem, through the leaves, through the flowers, etc. So, what is the importance of water in plants? Why do we need water for plants? Water is an important constituent of the protoplasm of each cell. See, besides being a constituent of protoplasm, water is needed inside the plant body for several purposes. So, it's required for several important physiological functions in the plant. So, what are those physiological functions? You know that water is a universal solvent. The roots of a plant absorb substances and minerals from the soil in the soluble form using water as the solvent. So, these components are essential for a normal plant growth. It helps in energy transfer and storage. It helps in the synthesis of structural components, etc. So, water forms a major component of plant and animal body. Hence, we can say that herbal plants, herbs contain 70 to 85% of water. And you are aware of algae? Algae have 95 to 98% of water. And as you know, human blood has 65% of water, whereas WBC contains 90% of water. And our muscles itself are composed of 75% of water. So these are the need for water. So as I already spoke that this being a constituent of protoplasm, water is needed inside the plant body for several purposes. So what are those purposes for which they need water? So first is your synthesis. Photosynthesis. Water is an essential ingredient in photosynthetic process in green plant, isn't it? For the manufacture of food, photosynthesis is a process by which the plants are able to prepare the food or manufacture the food. So for photosynthesis also water is essential. Second thing, if we see transpiration, a large amount of water present in the plant cell is released outside as water vapor during transpiration. More amount of water present in the plant is given out or released outside as water vapor during this transpiration. And transpiration in turn provides suction force for ascent of sap. Suction force, do you understand? It's a uptake force for the ascent of sap. Sap is a fluid where it needed to be absorbed, and this is taking place due to this process of transpiration and absorption of water by roots from the soil. So it, due to transpiration, it gives a cooling effect also, isn't it? Due to transpiration, it gives a cooling effect in hot weather. You might have experienced on a sunny day, when you go and sit or stand under a shady tree, you feel so comfortable. Why, you know? Because of this transpiration, more amount or more quantity of water is evaporated from the plants in the form of water vapor, so we feel cooling or soothing effect under a tree. So this also produces a suction force, as I told you. Next is, it's also required for transportation. Water is an important medium to transport the absorbed components from the root to each part of a plant. Okay, it's required that substances in the form of water solution from the roots, it should be transported from the roots upward into the shoot or from leaves to other parts of the plant. It is essential to translocate the food synthesized in the leaves to other part of the plant. Next is your mechanical stiffness. What is this mechanical stiffness? That means it provides turgidity. Turgidity is a condition of a cell where it cannot accommodate any more water. So this the content of water should be that much so that the cell will be in a distended condition. And this distended condition of a cell is necessary for the stiffness of a plant tissue. You might have observed, if a plant is there and you have burned something nearby a plant, you'll see that after some hours, this plant is completely given out the water, and now it is limp and it will fall down. What does that mean? That means it has given the entire water which was there in that plant. So due to that, it became limpid, and so the mechanical stiffness is maintained in the plant due to the content of water. That means water provides turgidity and also mechanical strength to a plant and its tissues. Now, mineral nutrients required by the plants are absorbed from the soil by the roots only. This all we know. Always the mineral nutrients which are required by the plant are absorbed by the soil, and that from the soil by the roots. So some of these nutrients which are absorbed as salts are nitrates, phosphates, sulfates, etc., and some simply as an iron like potassium, calcium, magnesium, chlorine, etc. And these elements are required as a constituent of cell and cell organelles, as well as in the synthesis of variety of compounds or enzymes within the cell. Now let us come to the characteristics of roots for absorbing water. What should be the character of a root so that it can absorb frequently the water from the soil? So the ability of roots to draw the water from the soil is dependent on three characteristics. Okay, so it depends on three characteristics. That is, it should have a huge surface area. That means it can provide more water due to this more surface area. This provided by rootlets and root hairs. You know, in a root we have a primary root, we have secondary roots, we have tertiary roots, and then the root hairs. So all these, they give a huge surface area which will be able to provide more water than the normal ones. This is one characteristics. Second characteristics is that root hairs containing the solution which is called as the cell sap. See, cell sap is a concentrated solution contained in the root hairs. Always remember, what is cell sap? It's a fluid or a solution which is contained inside the root hairs, and it's always in a higher concentration than that of the surrounding soil water. In the soil water is there, no doubt. That is more dilute than the water which is present inside the root hair. So this is the second characteristics. Now when we come to the third characteristics, root hairs have thin walls. The walls of the root hairs, which is the epidermal layer of the hair, is always thin in nature. So, we can go in detail about this. Surface area of roots is enormous. So, see the figure 4.1 in your book on page 38. See, it's a common experience that even a small garden plant such as a balsam, when gently uprooted means along with the roots it will come out. So, from the soil it shows a thick bunch of rootlets. And when carefully examined, each rootlet would show hundreds of root hairs. So, imagine if all the root hairs of a plant were to be laid end to end, they may cover a length of many kilometers. So, it's a fact that if these root hairs are laid end to end, then they may exceed more than a kilometer. So, this was about the first characteristics. Now, let us come to the second characteristics of a root hair. Root hairs contain cell sap. Cell sap I already discussed with you. What is cell sap? It's a fluid which is concentrated and it is present in the root hairs. So, these are more concentrated than the surrounding water of the root hair. So, root hairs are the extensions of the outer cells of the root, which we can also call as the epidermal cells, and they also contain large vacuoles filled with a solution called cell sap. You might have studied, when you have studied about the components or the organelles of the cell, there we have seen the cell which is having a vacuole. So, vacuoles are always said that they are filled with the cell sap, which is a concentrated solution. So, this concentration is always higher than the surrounding water, and this is a characteristic which is very important or required to draw water from the outside. So, that's for the occurrence of osmosis, which is described later. So, this osmosis condition we will come to know as we go forward. So, let us come to the third characteristics of roots. Root have thin walls, isn't it? Like all the plant cells, root hairs also have two layers, a cell wall and a cell membrane. And you know that cell wall is always thin compared to cell membrane, isn't it? And though it is thin, it allows everything in the solution to enter as well as to exit. That's why it is called as permeable. Permeable means the movement of water molecules which is dissolved freely in the water can enter to the cell as well as it can exit out of the cell. That's why the cell wall is always thin and permeable. Second thing, the cell membrane is very thin and semi-permeable. No doubt, cell membrane is also thinner one, but it is semi-permeable. And you know the difference between permeable and semi-permeable? Permeable means it will allow everything, all the substances to move freely in and out. Whereas, semi-permeable means it will only allow certain molecules to pass through it, not all. That means it won't allow the larger molecules of the dissolved salts inside to enter. Only certain things it will allow to enter. So, the secret of absorption of water from the soil by the roots lies mainly in this characteristics of the plant. So, this is how what we call it as characteristics of roots for absorption of water. So, absorption and conduction of water and minerals. The entire mechanism of absorbing water and minerals from the soil by the roots and its movements through the thickness of the root and subsequently its upward conduction through the stem is the result of five main phenomena. There are five main phenomena which helps in the absorption and conduction of waters and minerals. And those five phenomena are very important according to the exam point of view. So, that is, first is imbibition, second is diffusion, third is osmosis, fourth is active transport, and fifth is plasmolysis, or you can also say it as turgidity and flaccidity. Now, let us see individually what is this imbibition, what is this diffusion, and etc. So, imbibition. Imbibition is a physiological process where living or dead cells absorb water due to the surface attraction along a diffusion gradient. So what does that mean? If we see during this phenomenon, the net movement of water is always from a saturated region to a dry region. What do you mean by the saturated region? That means the region where there was water. When the water moves from water medium to the dry medium, that is called as imbibition. Take an example of some dry seeds. When you soak the seeds in a water, what will happen? After some time you see that the seeds have been swollen and the seed coat have been burst. What does that mean? It means the seeds were dry. It was put under a medium which was containing water. In a saturated medium, the dry substance was there. So there it absorbed the watery medium and swelled up. That means it absorbed the water. That is what we call it as imbibition. So imbibition is a physiological process where living or dead cells, whatever it may be, they will absorb water due to the surface attraction. Now, what is the reason for this imbibition? The phenomenon of imbibition involves absorbent components present on the surface of the living or dead cells. It completely depends on the component, adsorbent component. That means what type it is made of, what component is present on the surface. So these may be protein, carbohydrate, cellulose or starch, etc., which are hydrophilic in nature. You know what is hydrophilic and hydrophobic? Hydrophilic means it is having a strong attraction for water, whereas hydrophobic means it's having dislike for water. So these cells which or the surface of the living cells or dead cells which are made of protein, carbohydrate, cellulose or starch, they are always having a strong affinity to absorb the water. That is what we call that it is imbibing. So the surface of these components absorb water due to attraction towards them. So if we see some substance which are made up of this hydrophilic substance, they imbibe water or moisture and swell up. Example, we can see, we have already seen the dry seeds. Even we can see that wooden doors. Wooden doors, they are having an affinity to absorb water. So what happens during the rainy season and all, when this water gets wet, this doors get wet, no, they swell up. So if they swell up, what will happen? It will become tight. But once they get dry, again they will come to the same condition. So wood is also having a strong affinity towards the water. So they swell up on contact with water or on exposure to moist air. Now due to imbibitional pressure, seed coat ruptures in case of germinating seeds, isn't it? So it is also an important force in the ascent of sap. This imbibition plays a very vital role in the ascent of sap too. So this is what we call it as imbibition. Now what are the conditions necessary for imbibition? Though it is not there in your book, what are the conditions necessary for the imbibition? See, a water potential gradient between the surface of hydrophilic material and water is necessary. Then there should be an affinity between absorbent and imbibed water. If these two conditions satisfies for imbibition, then it will be conducted. Otherwise, it may be a hindrance. So, what it signifies? Why we are reading this about imbibition? What it signifies? You see, root hair of a plant contain hydrophilic substances, isn't it? Which imbibe soil water from the surrounding. And imbibition helps in transfer and distribution of water throughout the plant. Growth and movement of plants takes place as a result of imbibition, and germination of seeds into seedling and their emergence above the ground takes place due to the presence of pressure developed by imbibition. So this is what the significance of imbibition, or what is the importance of imbibition. So next topic is about our diffusion. Next topic is about our diffusion. And diffusion, it's not a new term for you all. You have already done in the chemistry. So what is this diffusion? Diffusion is the net movement or free movement of molecules from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. Okay, or you can say diffusion is the free movement of molecule of a substance from the region of their higher concentration to the region of the lower concentration when the two are in direct contact. When the two are in one area or in direct contact. This is what we call it as diffusion. So diffusion is a process which continues until a state of equilibrium is reached. This diffusion will continue until and unless it reaches a stable state of equilibrium. So what are the characteristics of this diffusion, phenomenon of diffusion? You see, the molecules move from higher concentration to the lower concentration. And diffusion occurs rapidly in gases than in the solid and liquid. Note the points. This diffusion occurs rapidly in gas than in liquid and solid. Solid and liquid also has diffusion, but a little slower than the gases. And the process of diffusion is faster when there is a large difference between the concentration of molecule in the two regions. For example, a dry plant absorbs water at a faster rate than a less dry or a moist plant. If a plant is dry, it will absorb more water and more rapidly, whereas if a plant is wet, it will take little time than the dry plant. So the movement of diffusion is always a passive transport, and this does not require any energy expenditure. The molecules move in a random fashion till an equilibrium is reached. So you can see a figure 4.3 on page number 39, which implies the process of diffusion. See what happened. There are 3 beakers, isn't it? So place a sugar cube on a small tablet of soluble dye or a crystal of potassium permanganate in a beaker containing water. Did you see that? A beaker is there, water is poured in that, and a tablet, a small cube of sugar or a small tablet of this potassium permanganate is kept at one corner. Now, after a few seconds, the sugar or the dye or the potassium permanganate slowly dissolves and spreads in the liquid. So, eventually, when time goes, the molecules of these substances are diffused or distributed uniformly throughout the water. Even you might have experienced when you are making a salt solution or a sugar solution. Take a glass of water, put some pinch of salt or a spoon of sugar, and don't stir it. Until and unless you stir it, that will not mix, or there will be a no equilibrium, state of equilibrium. Once you stir it, it comes very fast to a state of equilibrium. So when you have put this sugar cube or a small crystal of potassium permanganate, then if you leave it like that for some time without stirring, and you can see that it goes on dissolving, but very slowly, but it will dissolve at last. But if you take the help of a spoon, it will mingle very fast. So that is what diffusion. And diffusion means it's a free movement of molecules from the region of higher concentration, where you have put the potassium permanganate, that was the region of higher concentration. Then this higher concentration area moved towards the region of lower concentration, where there was no sugar or no potassium permanganate, and they both are in direct contact to each other. They didn't have any difference between them or any obstacle between them. So what happens if we do this type of this diffusion? Why it is implied on this absorption and conduction of water? Let us see. See, the molecules are moving away farther and farther in the region where they are fewer or absent. And this molecule continues until the molecules are uniformly distributed. Stirring with a spoon or a glass rod hastens the process of uniform diffusion, and you get a homogeneous solution very fast. But if you don't stir, it will become a homogeneous solution, but after a while. So this is what we call it as diffusion. And already I have spoke that here the gaseous diffusion is more rapid than the solid and liquid. So this was about our diffusion. Now I spoke about that why diffusion was required in plants, no? That I didn't answer you. Now listen to me. Now what is the importance of diffusion in plant? What diffusion is playing a vital role or a highly significant role in the exchange of gases in the plant cells, you see. What diffusion does in the plant? Why we are studying here in absorption and conduction, what is the meaning of diffusion? Why we are reading. Now see, diffusion helps a lot in respiration. Now see, during respiration, plants consume what? Oxygen, and its concentration reduces in the leaf spaces as compared to that of the atmosphere. Now as a result, what happens? Atmospheric oxygen diffuses into the leaves through the stomata. Similarly, when it is producing the carbon dioxide, what happens? During this process, it increases the concentration in the leaves and it results in the diffusion out of the stomata into the atmosphere. Just the reverse is happening in case of photosynthesis. You see, when photosynthesis occurs, during which oxygen is produced and carbon dioxide is consumed, as a result, it diffuses out oxygen out of the plant and while diffuses carbon dioxide in from the atmosphere. So this is what the significance of diffusion in the plant. When we come to a new term called as the osmosis. What is osmosis? Osmosis is also same as the definition of diffusion, but there is a little change in that. Let us see. Osmosis is the movement of water molecule from the region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration. But there is a hindrance there or an obstacle, because it has to pass through a semi-permeable membrane. In diffusion, in that medium, it was passing directly. They were in direct contact. But in osmosis, they both are not in a direct contact. Rather, an obstacle in the form of semi-permeable membrane is present over there. And what is the semi-permeable membrane? When we have studied about the plasma membrane, we have clearly discussed about the semi-permeability and permeability. Permeability means if any substance is able to enter completely and exit completely without any selective or selection, then it is called as freely permeable or permeable. Otherwise, if it is semi-permeable, it will allow certain substance to enter and certain substance to exit. Not everything. That is what happening in the osmosis. In diffusion, both the solution was in a same or direct contact, whereas in osmosis, there is a semi-permeable membrane. So we can say that osmosis is also the movement of water molecule from the region of the higher concentration to the region of lower concentration, but through a semi-permeable membrane it has to cross. Okay. In other words, it can also be said that it is a movement of water molecule from a diluted solution to a concentrated solution across a semi-permeable membrane. Now take an example. If we say that solution B is less concentrated, that means it is dilute, and solution A is more concentrated. It means solution B has less concentration of solute molecule when compared to solution A. Isn't it? Can we say like that? Solution B has less concentration of solute molecule when compared to solution A. Otherwise, we can say solution B has more concentration of solvent molecule when compared to solution A. Do you get the difference? Same thing but spoken in a different way. So let us understand the process of osmosis by an experiment. Okay, it is not there in your book, so please listen carefully. See, an equal volume of two solutions A and B are separated by a semi-permeable membrane. Try to understand. Two solutions of same volume A and B are separated by a semi-permeable membrane. A solution A is a concentrated solution which have more sugar molecules than water molecules, and solution B is a dilute solution with less sugar molecule and more water molecule. Both are having sugar, but A is more concentrated than the B. So, since the membrane is permeable only to water, the molecule of water will move from solution B to A. Do you get the point? Membrane, there is a semi-permeable membrane and it is only permeable to water. It won't allow the sugar solution to enter. So, what happens? The molecule of water will move from a solution B to solution A, because B was having dilute solution and A was concentrated solution. So, solution B to A, that is from the solution of the higher concentration to that of the lower concentration, and as a result the level of water will rise or increase in solution A while it will fall in solution B. So, initially what happened? The rate of movement is high, but gradually the rate became slow or down. That means solution A got diluted. So, the movement of water continues till an equilibrium of water molecule is reached between the two solutions. Till what time it will continue? Unless and until solution A and B are reaching to a stable or a static equilibrium condition. That is how, or that is what we call it as osmosis. So, it's an important thing to note in the above definition that only the water molecules from the higher region to the lower concentration or just a solution in relation to pure water.